Alright, so now that we are in Hell, again, just to recap, this is Act 4 of the Diablo II RPG that I have created. I myself am playing as the sorcerer. We have CM Tremblay, just score 00 as the rogue, and we've got the Grim Reaper here as the barbarian. So now that we're going into Act 4, this is where things start getting a little bit interesting. So these minions are going to start getting really close to our armor class, our armor values, which means that we're going to be could be taking a lot of damage really quickly. But this is also the act where we also get our superpowers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the game just really quickly and explain the superpowers which are listed at the bottom of the hints. So for the superpowers, the barbarians, it requires level 3 defensive shout, level 3 offensive shout, level 3 natural resistance. So it needs to be at least level 15 to be able to get um, all of those. Or, sorry, level 14 if that's all you streamline for. You have to be at least that to go ahead and make sure that you have this. But once you have War Cry unlocked, what happens is it combines defensive shout and offensive shout into a single shout, and it actually buffs what they do individually. So what you get is you get 500 extra hit points, 100 extra attack power, and 10 armor for 3 minutes instead of the 2 minutes that the cries are usually for. So you actually get an extra 2 armor. I do believe it's an extra, I don't know how much extra HP. Let's see. So, okay, you get the same amount of attack, and you get the same amount of hit points, but the extra armor and the longer duration is actually really, really good. The rogue is probably the best one because if you know anything about the rogue skills, you'll know that the rogues are very much passives. So they basically only benefit himself. The only thing that the rogue does is the herbalist. So if you have level 3 critical strike, level 3 dodge, and level 3 herbalist, the herbalist is actually improved, so it heals for more over time. And while it's healing for that 30 seconds, all the characters on the field get 20 armor. And that's really, really big because it'll make the next act, Act 5, really, really easy as you'll see that the mobs are going to have a lot more attack as we keep going. And having that basically makes you really, really strong. There's an added dodge and crit passive, so the same mechanic that works for the rogue for the critical strike, the critical hits, and the dodge are also applied not only to the sorcerer and to the barbarian now to a lesser extent. As you can see here, you get 20 armor and 50 AP, and this actually stacks with the actual natural ability to dodge and the critical hits for the rogue. So you're basically at this point the rogue will keep honestly just keep twirling whether it's armor or attack or both of them at the same time together. It's very rare that the rogue does not have an added bonus to his hit points or sorry, to his attack or armor. The sorcerer, I had tweaked that one quite a few times just to make sure that it was actually beneficial because basically the enchant weapon makes it very strong, and it also has the heal. So the heal has now been improved to heal for 2,000 hit points. Yes, you read that right. That's 2,000 hit points. It's incredibly strong, and it's an instant heal. So unlike the rogue, which heals 400 over a certain period of time, this is an instant 2,000. It does cost quite a bit of mana to use, which is why the sorcerer has extra abilities to regenerate mana a little bit faster, but it does require level 3 heal, level 3 drain life, and level 3 warmth. Now ideally warmth you'll have no matter what build that you take, just because that increases your mana regeneration. Drain life is really nice for the beginning, but you'll see that it kind of drops off later on in the game, and the level 3 heal you want to get that as the game progresses in preparation for this superpower. So not only that does the heal actually do that, but it also improves drain life. So everybody has now an added passive, which heals 50 on a kill, and that applies to everybody. It's not just unique for the sorcerer anymore. Of course, if you're using drain life as a sorcerer, it still stacks on there, so you can heal very quickly with the sorcerer if you're still using the drain life. So alright, we can keep on going. So here we have Doomcaster. So as you can see, 30 is not the greatest, but you can see that right now we're having to deal with Paladins and Elite Teutonic Knights. So these guys, again, the first area I try to kind of give it a gimme, but you'll see that some of our hero hit points are actually going to go down very quickly. So you can see here that our Barbarian, just because he's been staying on Strength for a while, is actually losing a lot of hit points. He doesn't have as much as even the Rogue here. Actually, to be fair, even the Rogue doesn't have that many. But we've basically ended up clearing out the first area quite quickly, and hopefully they'll be able to get some extra hit points. But they have about half of what I do, and that's not only just due to the kills. I just have Mare's Kaleidoscope that gives me extra chance to get more hit points and things like that. But I'm also just staying on strength at this point, regardless if I have 100 food or not, just due to the reasons that I have so much hit points or extra income coming from my kills, just due to the fact that I have Mara's Kaleidoscope and I have level 3 Prayer. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the food, I highly suggest that you go ahead on and watch the YouTube tutorial for Diablo 2. It's my first ever video, so I do apologize for its quality. I am trying out my new gig right now, so hopefully the quality is a little bit better. And I'm also able to see the chat for the first time ever while I'm streaming. So as you can see, we're just making our way through hell, and when you have the fog of war, it kind of looks a little strange, but a little cool because you're just getting more and more smoke. But the way it is, you actually get water that is underneath all of these tiles to make sure it is. So you get to the first boss, which is Izuul. He's really just basically just a HP pushover. He just has about 10k HP, but he doesn't really do that much damage, and so I haven't had anybody actually die to this. This next section, though, is a little bit more complicated. As you can see, these guys, they actually start hitting for quite a bit, so they have a plus 35. So that's, if you do the math, it's 47 to hit, which means that it should bypass most of our armor. So if they stack up, they can start doing quite a bit of damage. As you can see, even I don't have that much armor at the moment, but hopefully we'll be able to do that really soon, to be able to go ahead and bypass all of these guys. But as they're just slowly streaming in, that's not too much of an issue, because we're able to go ahead and kill them and regenerate our hit points faster than they can go ahead and damage us. So once this big group comes in, we might start running into a little bit of trouble, but we should be just fine. So there we go. We are slowly killing them. I'm just going to try to show you guys a little bit. Oh dear God, our barbarian is just running into trouble. One of the things I haven't really shown is when to use the potions. As you can see, the potions, they've kind of switched in and out around, but I always have them hotkeyed. Same thing with my abilities here, so that if I do need to use them something quickly, I'm able to do so without actually leaving my character to die. So as you can see, when we have the defensive shout up, we have quite a bit. Like I go to about 3k hit points instead of where it is now. But as you can see, I'm staying pretty much even. There's a slight positive, I believe, in the amount of hit points that I'm actually getting, despite the fact that I'm on there. So this boss right here, which is Hellfaster the Armor, which is, I like to believe, the Smiths and Act 1's big brother. So he is actually a little bit finicky. As you can see, his stats are kind of wild. He's got quite a bit of hit points. He can actually hurt because he does like 76 damage, and it does about 100 damage. So the trick to doing this is to actually kill the blacksmith first. So the blacksmith just has extra hit points. I think I just gave it an extra 1,000. Sorry, an extra 10,000 hit points, but it doesn't have any extra armor. So you're basically able to make quick work of this. And once the Hellforge is gone, you'll see that his stats, especially his attack and armor, are actually cut down in half. So there we go. So that's dead. So now his stats are cut down in half, which makes him basically tickle at this point. You may have noticed that there is a chest down here that I've actually gotten before the boss, which you can definitely do. And that one has a 1% chance to give the Stone of Jordan, which is a 1,000 gold item. Very good for later on in the game once you have nothing else to buy. You have a 10% chance to get a full rejuvenation potion, 20% chance to get 3 armor, 40% chance to get a greater health potion, and you automatically get a regeneration power, which is 25 hit points every 10 seconds. So only when this boss is dead can this happen. So when it says this, the sorcerer's powers are being buffed, the rogue has his power buff, etc., all of his buff, um, that just means that everybody has activated its superpower. So what I'm telling them to do now is to go ahead and wait to go on so that we can go ahead and use Warcry. Um, Warcry will make it so that we're able to go ahead and get our buffs, because as soon as you activate this, there's a 3-minute cooldown, and as you can see, we're almost done hell, and it has been basically 1 hour that we have been playing, because this is about 2 times the speed in game of actual game time, so it's not been too much. But yeah, so basically I tell them what I'm able to do. I'm able to heal for 2k, so just kind of let me know when I can heal. I'm happy to do that, and you'll see that right now it's a little bit tough because the mana maximum is 100, but once we actually end up getting to Act 5, we'll be able to go ahead and be able to get 150, which increases our maximum just by having the amount of wood here maxed. Alright, so what we're doing now is we're just going to wait a little bit just so that we can go ahead and get our Warcry on. And I'm just regenerating my mana, so as you can see I'm going at 100 and I'm regenerating a little bit faster. So we say we keep going, and oh, wow, I actually hit for like a truck. So I do hit for like 700 plus whenever the superpower for the rogue comes in. So as you can see here, I am basically just almost one-shotting these guys, not quite. They do have quite a bit of armor, but when I do have the extra buff on, I will one-shot them. So of course, there we go, we're making short work of this, but you can see that my HP is actually taking a hit because these guys hit rather hard. As you can see, plus 44, so we're up to 61 damage for these Teutonic Knights. Let me check the Paladins here, so it's another 58 damage for them. So the Teutonic Knight actually hits the hardest, but the Venomworms have a 1 range, and of course the Japanese crossbowmen here have 50 damage as well. So nothing here, like it all hurts. And that's the one thing that you don't want to do here, is to grab the boss early, especially when you're covered in red, because these guys, like I said at the beginning of this entire series, is that the purple mobs hit harder than the red ones because they're boss units. And so I believe that this is where our lovely barbarian is going to die, because he's think he's going to run out of potions, and he's actually stuck inside here. So his HP is actually going to go down, and I'm actually not looking too hot either because I am getting surrounded, although my health is still quite high. But you can see that our barbarian here is trying to run away, I think. No, he's still good. So I guess he used one of his full rejuvenation potion, but as you can see, he's out of potions, so if anything happens to him, he is completely out of it. I am trying to tank as much as possible because I have the highest hit points, but I do not have the highest armor, unfortunately. Now that everybody's caught up to me in armor, the rogue eventually will have the highest armor, which is ridiculous, but that's just because of the dodge mechanics that are inside. And of course the barbarian here is going to try to play the hero, and I do believe that this is where he dies, as he's actually getting trapped inside there, but he's so close of dying, and there he goes. So that's the one thing you don't want to do, especially when you're out of potions, is to go ahead and go in recklessly. These guys, they love actually just targeting the closest unit, especially the ranged ones. So that's why like the rogue is staying far back. I'm doing okay. I'm not doing super hot, but I can always activate a potion, or because I have the mana, I can heal for like 2,000, which will bring me back up to full. But right now, what I'm doing, I do believe, is I'm just using like, oh, I did use a potion, so that way I'm able to go ahead and regenerate. But as soon as the rogue ends up healing a little bit, my armor goes up by 20, which makes it very easy for me to go ahead and tank. The main reason why we actually had a tougher time here than usual, especially considering with that, is because our barbarian didn't invest in energy at the point, and he can't use his war cry because he doesn't have the 80 required wood to do so. His maximum is not that high, so he has to go ahead and invest in energy, which is what I've told him to do, and that's why he's well, should be on that anyway. So we've cleared the mobs, and there's a teleport that unlocks here. And one thing I'm going to do is, what am I going to do? I think that was a misclick. I'm just going to go ahead and heal and buy a couple of potions. And yeah, I'm going to kind of go ahead and explain the final boss fight for Diablo. So as you can see, made a nice pentagram here. So for Diablo, what happens is you need to open all of these 3 seals to go ahead and release Diablo himself. And I'll kind of explain what each boss does because each boss has something. So these guys will spawn Venom Lords, which are the Paladin units. These guys will spawn the Genius Crossbowmen. These guys will spawn the Teutonic Knights. The Paladins is definitely the dangerous one. So what I like to do is I like to start with that one, considering that you're probably on full health at that point. So I really recommend you starting with this one. It is also the most deadly because they do extra attacks. So by that I mean like their attack fluctuates just like the rogue did with the critical hits, and now the rest of the party, because we've got our superpower. So they do the same as well, except that they hit rather hard. I think they can go up to like 95 damage a shot. Thankfully, there's not that many of them, so it's not that bad, but they're also quite fast. You can't just run away. So if you enter here, you actually cannot escape out. So you are actually stuck to go inside here until you either beat or die. This one, the west one, is the one that I like to do second. It's probably the easiest, but it's also one of the annoying ones because the boss actually drains your mana. So you basically end up at the end of this with 0 mana. The only good thing that happens is that by beating that boss, you automatically get a free mana potion, just in case you did make it so that it, you did have that. So I'm going to try to show off here what happens. So as you can see, they're not that tanky, like not that much HP. But as soon, see, there you go. So you have the plus 50 attack once the buff is active for a little bit. So that's very deadly. And again, it's got random chances. As you can see, it's doing quite a bit on our rogue here who's trying to run away. And I'm going to try to tell him that he can't actually do that, but he used a potion, or I'm not sure if I healed or something like that. Either way, we were able to go ahead and just stop and do it. So like I said, this one is just the most annoying one. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and try to use all of our skills beforehand. So you want to activate everything, such as like enchant weapon. You want to activate the war cry if possible, or at least the defensive shout, and to go ahead and do this. So as you can see here, we've got the Stormcasters. They really don't hurt, but as you can see, my mana is going to be going down really quite fast. Despite the fact that I am killing, I've got all of this mana steal, it's still going to go down. But they don't really hurt. The only thing that happens with these guys is that they buff their armors, and like the other ones buff their attack. So it's not really that big of a deal, considering that we have a lot of attack at this point, just because we are playing in normal. And if it was another difficulty, we might have a little bit of a harder time. They might be just more difficult to kill, but not that big of a deal. These guys, they spawn Teutonic Knights, and they're basically very slow, so the rogue can easily kite them. The only thing that is annoying which will maybe stop the rogue from doing so, is that they do have a very high regenerative ability, so they heal a lot every couple of seconds, which makes it so that you want to go ahead and focus as much as possible. What we want to do now is we just want to wait for the barbarian player to go ahead and finally get his character down here, just because he literally walked all the way down instead of taking the teleport, which took forever. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up a little bit. But I do want to explain the last fight. So once, of course, the boss here has died, so what we're going to do is, like, Diablo will show up in the middle of the pentagram. He's actually quite special, as he gets a buff when he is in the pentagram. So what he's going to happen is he has actually a 4 range attack, so he can hit from quite far. So you want to kind of drag him away from the circle, and then he'll actually go ahead and teleport back every, I'd say about 10 seconds or so, back into the circle, and then he's going to start making explosions. To go starting from the circle here, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So if you stand right next to him by the pentagram, you're going to take a lot of damage. Um, so that's something you really don't want to do, is to stand right beside him. Now, what we want to do again is we want to take him up, because every time again he comes back, he actually gets buff. So he actually gets an attack buff, but he actually gets stronger over time as he's standing in the pentagram, and he also heals the longer he is. So that's really a fight that you don't want to start losing or have a total party wipe on, just because of the fact that even if you do, by the time that you get back, Diablo will be even significantly stronger and probably back to full health. So I just want to kind of show here a little bit of the regeneration. So as you can see, hang on, no, not happening. Alright, that might have been just because the boss is actually dead. So once the boss is dead, all of these powers just stop happening. Alright, so as I said, all the seals have been broken, and Diablo is coming. So we're actually automatically forced to walk all the way down here. It is intentional. So the idea is ideally for the rogue to come in, and voila, we've got our Diablo here coming in. So 3 range, I misspoke. So as you can see, I'll keep him selected, but what we want to do is once he starts moving to the teleport, Jesus, we do a lot of damage. So he moved back to the teleport, and he healed for a little bit, and you can see these explosions are coming in. So he won't have a chance to do that again, as he doesn't have enough HP. But let me tell you that in higher difficulties, this fight is insane. Alright, so we get the small defensive charm, and so we get our armor buff. So we have a 10% chance to get a +3, 40% chance to get a +2 armor, and then of course you always get the 1 armor, 100 gold, and you also lose 10 food.